everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on all types of topics related to narcissism, so if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. It's a free way you can help me out, and definitely don't forget to leave a comment because I like to read what you have to say. So with that done, I have a very, very special guest today. So I would like to welcome my daughter, fan favorite, Paris. Hi, Paris.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
So before we get too far into the video, there's a couple of things I want to say. So Paris and I are making this video on Tuesday. However, I'm going to release it on Friday. So I'm going to speak as if it's Friday for the rest of the video. Happy birthday, Paris.
Oh, thank you.
So Paris is 19 years old today, which I don't know how that happened because I really think I just found out I was pregnant with her, but somehow she's 19 now. But it's not just that you're 19. Paris, do you want to tell us your exciting news?
Yes, as of today, I am a published author.
So we thought that it would be a great day to have her on the channel. So I'm so excited, and you know how it is, you moms out there, you're so excited when something great happens to your kids. So I don't want to be annoying and just brag and all that, but there is a point to having Paris on the channel today. And the main point of this, we do want to celebrate her, of course, but I want to tell you guys, if you are a parent, I know, because I went through this exact same thing myself, so many of us fear because of what we've gone through with the narcissist, that our kids are going to be permanently disabled mentally because of what happened with the narcissist. And I want to tell you, and this is part of like my whole channel anyways, every single thing that I tell you guys are things that I have personally experienced. So I'm not reading this in a book or telling you what I think. I know that these things are real because they happened to me. You know, Joe has used the term terminal uniqueness, that he used to think he suffered from that. And I love that phrase because it's what so many of us feel. You know, I somehow am different than everybody else. Maybe other people can recover, or other people's kids can recover, or whatever it is. When it came to me, it was kind of like, well, other people can leave the narcissist, but not me. I was suffering from terminal uniqueness, but there's no such thing. People are people, and if one person can do this, everybody can do this. So I want to talk a little bit at the beginning of the video about having a child be successful after narcissism. Well, not their narcissism, that came out wrong. Having a child be successful after they've been subjected to narcissism. You know, Paris is 19 today. She has been, you know, we were separated, let's see, how old were you when your father and I split up? It was 2019, so 16?
I was 16.
All right, so Paris was 16 when my ex and I split up, but her whole life before that, she was with a narcissist. But today, she couldn't be. I mean, if I didn't know, I wouldn't know that you ever had a problem. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on growing up with a narcissist and living a good life despite what happened?
I think ultimately the defining moment for me was I made the decision to move forward. And actually this decision, I made it when we moved from New Hampshire to where we are now. I told myself, I was like, all right, this is going to be the first of many big decisions. I'm going to keep making moves after this. But before that, I struggled with it, and I felt like I felt almost dragged down with it, but I decided that when we moved, my life
so
was
when you say
over.
dragged down by it, you mean your father's narcissism?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yeah, and how I felt about it, and I did struggle with PTSD. And I wouldn't say I'm fully healed from it, but it has definitely made a big difference not having him in my life anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't even, like, I used to, when we first moved.
So do you mean not just not having him in your life, because I want to talk about that as well, but moving several states away?
I think so. I mean, I miss New Hampshire, I miss our friends and everything that we left behind, but cutting my father out that was one of the big things that helped me. That, and then I made the conscious decision that I'm going to move forward.
You know, that's similar to me. Paris and I were talking about this the other day, and both of us have, like, independent of each other, we made a decision. And I want to tell you that this is the way to go, I think, personally. I made a similar decision as Paris. This was several years ago when my ex and I first split up. Some of you know this story. I finally kicked him out of the house after he had tried to get me arrested falsely. And his false arrest, well, I didn't actually get arrested, but he wanted to. Him doing that triggered a Child Protective Services investigation. He wasn't in the house. I was a stay-at-home mom at that time, and I found out that he wasn't paying any bills. I was terrified. I was getting notices from the mortgage company telling me that they were going to foreclose on the house unless I paid basically 2 mortgage payments, and our mortgage payment was over $3,000. So I didn't have this money. I was supposed to pay 2 of them, not to mention I was getting notices from the electric company saying our power was going to be cut off. It was close to Christmas. I didn't have any Christmas presents for my kids. I was desperate. It was such a bad time. I was in absolute misery. And I can remember for about 2 weeks, I was just panicked all the time. It was like a nonstop panic attack. And then I had 2 kids who were depending on me, and I could barely function. At the end of the night, I can remember just laying in my bed, petrified, afraid, like really thinking that my kids were going to find me dead because I was going to have a heart attack in the middle of the night. I was afraid to sleep. But I want to tell you what got me out of that place, and it was similar to Paris. It was a decision, a determination. I didn't want my kids to grow up this way. There was just no way. So I made the choice. All right, I want my kids, who were 16 and 13 at the time, I made that decision that I wanted my kids to grow up in a happy home, in a home with a mother who smiled. I wasn't going to have the father. All right, that's fine. What we had, though, was still going to be a happy family. I wasn't looking at it, well, if I don't have a husband or if I don't have a good husband, then it's just going to be all misery. No, I decided my kids are going to have a happy home. That's how it's going to be. And I consciously decided to put a happy look on my face. My countenance was full of joy. We laughed. We had a good life. I figured out all these traumatic events with the money, and we moved forward. My kids saw me laugh and smile. I didn't always feel like it, but sometimes it's kind of like you have to force yourself into doing something, you know, kind of dive in, then swim. So I dove in, and it was weird when I talked to Paris the other day, and she had done the same thing, and so with some different situations, but the same thing. Determination, we think, Paris and I, is the key to moving forward. So Paris, I want to get into your book, well, your books, and also some of your other plans, because I really want to encourage anybody that has children to know it's never too late. I didn't kick my ex out when Paris was a baby. She was 16. This is what she knew. She'd been woken up by the police, traumatized. I can't even tell you how many times I had to sit my kids down and talk to them about their father yet again. My ex was driving drunk with Paris in the car. She had a lot of bad things happen. And this is me just like touching the surface. But you can move on. Your children can move on. And really the first thing is to decide, yeah, we are going to move on. So sorry about that little spiel. I just want people to know that, like I said, we're not terminally unique. We have everything ahead of us. Joe and I talk about that all the time. We have our whole lives. Yeah, this horrible thing happened, but the horrible thing doesn't have to define us. We define ourselves. So Paris, before we get into some of your goals and some of the things you've already accomplished, why don't you just fill us in on your relationship with your father and the decision that you made regarding that?
So I went no contact with him, and I mean, in some ways, I had almost an advantage making this decision because he had already been giving me the silent treatment. He moved out, and after he was kicked out, we saw him a couple times, and then he kind of just went radio silent. There was no contact on any random days, no birthdays, no holidays, etc.
Yeah, that was December of 2019. I kicked him out at the beginning of the month, and we saw him sporadically. And it was all me, because my son was, my daughter and I were about done with him. My son he wanted it to work out. So we had my ex over for dinner a couple of times. So what did you see him, like 3-4 times maybe? I
don't even know. It was just a couple times.
Between December and May, that range. Yeah, so go on. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, so after that he went like complete silence. So when I made the decision to cut contact, it wasn't like I was having a steady relationship. However, at this point, he had started sending kind of like fake emails and stuff. I don't respond to them. He emails.
Let me just backtrack just for people that don't know. So we were having him over for dinner, and it wasn't going well. He would come over, and either he and I would get into a fight, he would be given the silent treatment, he just wanted to do laundry, like whatever it was, like it was stressful and not good. So I told him at one point in December, truthfully, that the kids didn't want to see him. At that, he literally, he said F them, and then that was it. It wasn't until I initiated a divorce and moved out of state that he finally decided that he was going to send the kids occasional emails. So when Paris says like he gave her the silent treatment, that's what it was. So you did have a head start for roughly 2 years.
Yeah, so it wasn't, I think that gave me an advantage making it, but I still needed to sit down with myself. And I'm not responding to emails. I'm not contacting him. The minute the divorce papers are signed, I'm going to block his number. And that has really helped me move on. I don't have him dragging me down anymore.
You know, Joe and I talk about this all the time. Some of this, Paris. So Joe and I have 4 kids. Paris is our only daughter, and I want to tell you, she is a superstar. And both Joe and I say, oh, I wish we could be more like her. Because when you are determined to do something, you're going to do it, and it doesn't matter what gets in your way. So we'll talk about that in a minute with your writing. But yeah, Paris is, when she decided to go no contact, it was not, like I'm no contact too, but sometimes, not that I want to have a relationship or long communication with him, but for example, my ex owes me $1,200 for my son's orthodontic care. So there is a part of me that wants to send him an email or call him and say, are you going to send that $1,200? What's up with this? That type of thing. But Paris, no, nothing. No matter what, it's no contact. So do you think that helped you with healing?
I think it did, because I used to, when we first, I don't know, when we left and the divorce was filed for, that was kind of when he started sending these emails. And at first they kind of freaked me out. Like I remember one time I got he found my Instagram account and he DM'd me, and I panicked. Like I got freaked out by it at first. But now that I've made this conscious decision, I don't even care. Like, I read the email, it's like a sentence. It's like, I miss you. And I'm like, thanks. And that's it.
Feelings not mutual.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, thanks. Like, I can totally tell that by the fact that, you abandoned me.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. He hasn't done anything except now he pretends, Like when we first moved here, that's when he started, you remember, he would act like, well, your word doesn't tell me that the kids are safe, or, as if the whole 2 years when he was ignoring the kids, he wasn't worried if they were safe or not. Now suddenly, now that he's getting a lawyer involved. But neither here nor there. Paris is at a really good point, and, it does help. Do you think it helps having Joe? Because he's like a dad to you.
Oh, yeah. I've never really had a dad, so for me it's all new with Joe, but he spoils me.
Oh my God, you guys. So why don't you give some examples of what he does to spoil you?
Oh,
because all right, I'm gonna just tell you, I know I'm interrupting you. I love that he does this, but sometimes he might go a little far.
Yeah, I remember recently he came in, he visited, well, I was working, and my mom and Joe, they went and they stopped by to visit me. And when they were checking out, Joe was like, oh, do you want a coffee, Paris? I can get you one. So they went to Dunkin' and they came back with a coffee. And it was funny, all of my coworkers were like, Paris, he spoils you. And I'm like, oh, I noticed that.
Yes, he does. It's beautiful. I love it. But sometimes it's like he'll just, there is nothing he wouldn't do for Paris. I mean, for the other kids too, but I just want to say she benefits being the only girl. We'll leave it at that.
Yes.
So Paris, it's your 19th birthday. How does it feel to be 19?
Oh, this question.
Your last teenage year?
Yeah, it feels the same, but also being an author now is very exciting, so I'd say it's a more exciting birthday than usual.
That's why I started with the birthday, but I want to get into this. So you guys, today, Paris is officially a published author. And when I tell you, and she can tell you in a minute, the time, work, and dedication that it takes to do that, it is no joke. Paris is a worker. She is determined. She does, I know. And I know like some of you are probably like, oh yeah, whatever, it's your daughter. I wouldn't say this if I didn't think it was true. Paris is going to go places. So in some ways, when you think about when something really bad happens to you, you can really use that to launch off and decide, you know what, I'm not going to put up with this type of thing ever again in a million years, and I'm going to be successful despite you. So Paris, why don't you tell us a little bit about your dream to be an author and how this whole thing happened, and then some of your other projects.
Okay, so I've always liked writing, but it was kind of more, I would write maybe a short story here and there actually, it was around the same time all of this started that I started writing, actually, with my father. It did coincide, which I don't know if it was a conscious decision, but, like, I started writing seriously, like, the same time this all happened.
Was it, like, after that December when he wasn't living there anymore, or was it... Because the last, like, what was it, a year or two before I kicked him out, he was not in a good place.
I started writing a little bit in, like, the fall before that, and then afterwards is when I started getting really serious about it.
Because I kicked him out December of 2019, so you're talking 2018?
Yes, I started a little bit in 2018. I started becoming very serious about it in 2020 is when I became more serious. So I started writing a book, and I decided that I wanted to publish this book. Now making that decision, I feel like anybody who's writing a book says that. It wasn't until February this year that I went from I want to publish this book to I am going to publish this book.
Sorry, I almost interrupted her. That's why there was that pause. Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about, let's just go back just a little bit. When did you decide that this was what you wanted to do, like for a career or like as a main part of your life?
So I started writing seriously, like super seriously in like March-ish 2020. I started an Instagram account for writers where I share writing tips that November, and that is when I started to become more and more serious. And as time went on, I began to meet some other people online who have also published books. My best friend, I talk to her. When I tell you guys, I text her at least 1 or 2 hours. No, not 1 or 2, probably 2 or 3 hours a day. We're constantly in contact. She lives out of state, so we're like all, we have met in person, but we're all online. And she's published a lot of books, and I was like, I want to publish books too. So it's kind of just I started gaining more and more momentum as time went on.
And it helped you seeing her books and that she's done this?
Yes, and not to mention I really just have a passion for writing. I love it. Like if I ever feel down and I start writing, I immediately, like, it is my passion. It makes me so happy to do.
I don't know if you realize this, Paris, but that's such a blessing to have a passion at a young age, to know what you want to do. And I want to tell you guys, she is a phenomenal writer. She is so gifted. I haven't read everything you've written yet, but I was the editor of her book. I have to say, homeschool mom extraordinaire. That was a lot of work doing the editing. But what she did writing, I mean, she wrote, how many books have you written now?
I don't know how many full drafts I have. I don't know how to explain this. I am most productive when I'm doing multiple things at once.
Yeah.
It's the way my brain works. I can't focus on just one thing. As a result, I think I have 18 different books that I either have ideas for, I've drafted, I'm in the process of, I'm editing, etc. Whatever it is, I'm like a project bouncer as I get things done.
You guys, when I was the first book I read that Paris wrote, I loved it. And every single time I read a book that she writes, I want to tell you, I absolutely love the book. It's so obvious to me that she's such a gifted writer. I never, ever, because that could be a situation, right? Like say she wasn't that great of a writer, and now I'm reading a 200-page book. Oh God, here we go again. It's never like that. They're page turners. I'm going to give away 10 copies of Paris's new book. So I don't know what I'm going to do, if I'm going to have a contest, and I want you to tell us about the books. But whether I'm going to have a contest, I just have to say, when I first started YouTube, I originally was going to do YouTube with my face on screen and kind of just like talk in that way. My son didn't want me to do that. He didn't want me doing that. He didn't want his friends to know. Since then, things have changed, and he doesn't really care anymore. He's proud of the YouTube channel. But because I'm not officially divorced, my ex, if he got a hold of this channel, Jesus, like, that would be a problem for me. So I don't want him to know about this. So because of that, you know, Paris has her full name on her book. I can't give the book away now. So, but that is coming. I'm going to give away 10 autographed copies of the book. I will also let you guys know how you can order the book yourself. Paris has a YouTube channel, Instagram, all this stuff that would be fantastic. You guys would really enjoy it. All that information is going to be out there once it is official. And God willing, it will be official on the sooner side within a few weeks, hopefully. So that is all coming. But just in an abundance of caution, I'm keeping that kind of hush-hush at the moment. So Paris, so why don't you tell us, I was talking about the first book you wrote, which has a special place in my heart because I love it. But she has the book out today. And why don't you tell us about that book, like the premise of that book? What's it about?
All right, so I'm just going to be careful. I'm not going to mention the title and stuff in it. It's a fantasy book, so I invented a lot of magic in it. Today, I'm just going to give you guys kind of a bit of a teaser. You guys are going to have to wait a little bit to learn a bit more about the magic and what it's called, because the magic is also the name of the book. But for now, what the book is about is, it is about a girl. She's 15 actually, so she's young. She's on the younger side, and she discovers that she has magic healing powers. And where she lives, black magic is forbidden. Now, her powers are not black magic, but they are mistaken for it. The next day, her family's kidnapped, and her house is burnt to the ground. All that's left is a note that's addressed to her, and it's addressed to her, and it is signed with an X. She finds a trail of these X's, and she follows them to save her family, where she meets this boy, and this boy's talking about magical eyes, evil wolves, and this group of people whose name I'm also going to be keeping secret, but I'm going to tease with you guys that it has the word volcano mixed in there. And it's the story of how she finds and saves her family.
Guys, it is such a good book. And I have to say, you know, Paris asked me, who's your favorite character? My favorite character is the main character, because Paris, she's you. What do you think about that?
I did not intentionally self-insert into her, but now, like, once you pointed it out to me, I kind of took a step back, and I was like, yeah, I can see it.
Her. Oh my gosh, the way that she thinks, the way she acts, the love, the fierce love and protectiveness that she has towards her family, which I want to say, like, just outside of the writing, if you are Paris's sibling, you have a guardian angel for life. It is incredible, the bond that she has with her brother. So Joe's 2 kids have no idea how blessed and lucky they really are. I mean, really, it's no joke with Paris. Family comes first. And that's why, like, you know, when she went no contact with her father, this was a big deal for your personality. You know, what do you think about that? I
hadn't really thought of that before, but that's true. I'm very, like, I will die for my family with no hesitation. And, like, I feel like a lot of people say that, but, like, when I'm saying that, I mean it.
Oh my gosh,
I would
it's the truth. Yeah.
die for them. Like, I just get this fierce love in it. And I mean, honestly, with my father, what happened is he hurt my family. He hurt my mom and brother, and you do not do that.
But did you always think of him as outside that, do you think?
Outside of my protectiveness?
Outside of your family, because you were talking about, you know, me and your brother.
I think so, because over time, as time went on, we got closer and closer, the 3 of us.
Yeah.
And I wasn't consciously aware of it. I think I mentioned this in the last video I was in. Things started changing for me a little bit when he was laid off from work, when I was like 12 or 13. I didn't connect this for a long time, but being around him all the time really made me feel depressed. And I think that's kind of when there was, like, kind of this wedge that started pushing me apart.
Well, I think also, like, not to dwell on this too much, but when it comes to a narcissist, they're not human. I mean, like, I know how that sounds, and some people listening to this are like, well, what the heck are you talking about? Of course they're human. When we think about humanity, we're thinking about a heart and a soul, you know, love. That's what makes you human, empathy. Narcissists don't have that. So when Joe and I say all the time that you're dealing with spiritual warfare, yeah, that's the truth. So you probably never had that connection because he was missing a part that makes you human. if that makes sense.
I think so.
So let's get back to the book. So are you kind of a one and done author?
Absolutely not. So the book I'm writing now is actually book 1 in a trilogy. And I have a lot of other secret projects. I need to be careful with how I word this because I love like announcing things, so I like to like spread my announcements out.
Let me just say this. All right, so this is the first book of a trilogy. So does that mean now you're hard at work writing the second book?
No. So I have already drafted the second book and the third book. The trilogy is written. Everybody's fates are sealed. I will not be taking suggestions on fates because I already finished that. Yep. But I also I'm going to be working on editing the second book soon, but I have finished drafting it. And I would also like to hopefully publish another book, not the second book in the trilogy, this December. I'm hoping for.
Is that the book that I finished reading a little while ago?
No, so it's a different one. It is a novella I wrote in January. So it's very new.
Okay.
It's the one that I want you to read soon that I told you about. I need to be careful. I can't say the name.
Yes. All right. So let me ask you. So the book that I read recently that I really love, what are your plans with that one?
I do want to. So I recently I wrote a book and I entered it into a contest a couple weeks ago. I don't want to go forward publishing the book until the contest results are out.
Okay.
The contest won't affect anything. I'm not legally bound to keep it secret, but just because I'm waiting for the results of that contest, I kind of want to wait because I honestly don't think I'm going to win that contest, but if I do, there is that hope. I'll probably put that somewhere in the book.
Yeah,
so I got to wait first.
Yeah, it's a contest for any of you homeschool moms. We did this what was it called? I'm totally blanking on it.
1 year adventure novel.
1 year adventure novel. Thank you. So if you are homeschooling, I highly recommend this. It's this program where over the course of a year, your child writes a full novel, and it's fantastic. It's wonderful. So they have this contest at the end of every year where people that have done the program, they can enter what they wrote into the contest, and they have some pretty good prizes. It's like $1,000, right?
Yeah, first prize is $500.
Oh, $500.
There's a trophy. You get full feedback, which for a writer, having like feedback on your book is the most valuable thing you can get. So you get feedback for it. I think you get a little award too, and then there's the second and third place prizes are really great as well. Yeah,
so it's great. So I highly recommend that. Would you recommend that for any homeschool moms?
I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, it's great. It really takes you through everything. But that book, can I talk a little bit about what that book is about?
Yes, you can go ahead and tell them.
So I just read this book recently, and it was a page turner. It was so fantastic. It was this teenage girl. It's Paris. It was this teenage girl who was murdered by her boyfriend. But when she's pushed off a cliff, and at the bottom of the cliff, she thinks that she miraculously walked away unscathed. But then she realizes that her body's still there. So she's dead, but she's like, her soul is alive and living, and she's amongst the world. So people can't see her, but she can see other people. And there's all these like different things that she can do, like pushing open doors and things like that. Some she can't do, some she can. And then she meets some other dead people, and she learns that she's in this world called the in-between. Is it called the in-between?
Yes.
And so she's in the in-between, and if a ghost watches you, so she's a ghost. If another ghost watches you die, instead of going to heaven or hell, you are stuck in the in-between. And there's ways that you can earn your way to heaven, but hardly anybody does it. And so she meets up with all these other ghosts, and there's all these adventures, and it is fantastic. It was so good. It's just such a great, oh my gosh, you guys, it's awesome. And the book that she has published now, I'm reading the second one, and it's like every day I'm like, oh, I gotta do all the stuff, but I gotta read this. It's so good. Paris, how do you come up with your ideas?
That's a good question. They just come to me. Like, honestly, I think I do believe God's hand's in it. Like, I'm a believer. I think his hand has to be in it, because I couldn't come up with some of these things by myself. The way, like, I will literally be walking down the street and an idea will just pop into my head. Yeah. So I really do think God has a hand in it.
Oh, definitely. Because when you read her books, you'll know what I'm talking about. These are not what a typical just graduated from high school person would write. These are amazing. They're inspiring. They're wonderful. Paris, I'm so proud of you. Joe's so proud of you. This is just, it's incredible. So we have a published author in the house, which is pretty fantastic.
Yes, I'm excited about it.
So what do you think about, I mean, I know it's not your birthday yet, but what do you think about being 19? What are your thoughts on that?
Like what I want to do going forward?
Well,
or?
does it seem weird to you that you're in your last year of being a teenager?
That is, I haven't really thought about it yet, but that is a little odd that I'm going to be 20 next year. I'm not going to be a teenager anymore.
So what are your plans going forward? So tell us your plans for, say, the next few years.
I want to get more books out. That's really my passion. I mean, obviously that's what we've been talking about, is I want to publish my books. I have so many different books I want to write, and I have so many different plans that I also want to do. I do think I'm going to want to go to college and get a degree.
Yep.
Probably. I mean, I'm going to be an English major. It's probably a little surprising, but I'm going to major in English because I might want to be an editor one day as well, and
Yeah.
an English degree can definitely help me with that.
Yeah, I definitely think you should go on. Paris is taking a little bit of a break between now and January. She's going to start up in January. But it's actually good that you have this time off because you have so many projects. So Paris works. She writes her book. She's helping out at home. She's dealing with PTSD and trauma. But you're not letting it hold you back.
Nope.
She is like a go-getter. You know, Paris and I, sometimes we've noticed that there's a difference in the house between the men and the women. What do you think about that, Paris?
I do think there's a bit of a difference there.
And I don't know if there's a difference between men and women when it comes to recovery. I have heard that there's differences between men and women going through divorce or dealing with trauma. But Paris and I both have the attitude where, all right, this thing happened, but we're not going to let it hold us back. And despite it, we're up, we're going, we're doing things. Sometimes some of the guys in the house, like they struggle with that a little bit. So let me know, is that something that you've noticed as a woman? Do you feel that you've been able to move forward a little bit faster or a little bit easier than men? Because that's something, you know, when I first started this channel, I didn't even think about men suffering from narcissistic abuse. It was women. And when I started hearing from men, I was kind of like, what? All right, I guess whatever, but this is really about us women. I've since come to change that completely. And from my own experience with Joe and hearing from so many of you and seeing other things, I think it's harder for men to get over. And I don't know if it's because like a woman basically got one up on you. I don't know, but I do think it's worse for men, or at least it's harder for them to get over it. But I'm telling you, determination is the way to go. Do it afraid, do it when you don't feel like it, and your entire life changes. And if you have children, this is not the end of their life. This is just the beginning. They had a hiccup, something happened, but all of us, we have a life to live, and until we are literally dead, there is nothing you can't accomplish. Never make the mistake, like Joe said, of thinking that he was terminally unique. We are not terminally unique. We're people just like other people, and we can get over things and move on. And if you have a determination, the only thing that can hold you back is you. Once you're free of the narcissist, they're going to have their own existence. My personal belief is that they're going to eventually meet their maker and go to hell. That's not going to be our life. We can do anything. Paris, what do you think about that?
I agree with that 100%. It starts with a decision,
Yeah.
and you just got to keep throwing punches.
I'm so with you. So Paris and I, mother and daughter, we have the same view, but it's true. I've seen it with us compared to the men, and there's literally nothing that can stop you except you. So thank you so much for watching this. I'm sorry that I can't give away the 10 copies today and that I can't link the book and all types of stuff, but I will. Paris, will you come back on once everything is final and I can actually give the books away?
I would love to do that. I'm actually looking forward to it.
So we'll have Paris back once my divorce is final, so we don't have to hide anything. We can just be right out there. I can give the books away. I can have a little party. Maybe we'll even do a live or something. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
All right, guys, so stay tuned. This is not the last you'll hear of Paris. And not just that, but when she's a famous author, you can say, oh, I remember when she was getting that first book out, right?
Yes.
So Paris, happy birthday. And I'll see you after I hit stop on this.
Thank you.